This is the one thing that I did postpartum that actually saved my life. Yes, you heard me correctly. I did one thing postpartum that saved my life. I went to see a physical therapist. Hey there, my name is Lesline, and I am your favorite nurse yogi. If this is your first time clicking on my pretty face, thank you. Make sure you subscribe. Right now, I'm going to pause. The video is not glitching. Look down below and make sure you are subscribed. I am a registered nurse with 12 years of healthcare experience, and I said registered nurse with 12 years of healthcare experience, and I'm also a certified yoga instructor with 5 years of teaching experience. So today we're going to blend those two things and also just give you all a personal story of my postpartum journey and how I listened. I was a good patient because sometimes, a lot of the times, nurses can be the worst patients. But I made sure to listen to my midwife at my 6-week checkup, and she changed the trajectory of my life for the better. I feel like we need more of these stories, especially if you look like me, you are a Black woman. As we know, and if you don't know, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth. Thankfully, that was not my story. Thankfully, at time of recording, me and my children are healthy and will continue to be healthy. But I just want to share resources and tips and knowledge with you in case you are thinking of becoming pregnant, or maybe you are postpartum and you're watching this video and you're like, hold up, I need physical therapy. In case you don't know what physical therapy is, and I'm looking because my one of my kids just came home, grandparents just brought them home, and I don't want them busting in. Physical therapy is a type of therapy that you can get that will help you with physical needs. So typically how I have seen it as working as a registered nurse in the hospital, a patient has a stroke, right? And when you have a stroke, worst case scenario, you may lose mobility in an arm, a leg, maybe both arms, both legs. It just depends on, the side of your brain that was affected. So just a little schooling for you. If the left side of your brain had the stroke, the right side of your body is typically what is going to not work anymore. But because of things such as medications and physical therapy, as well as occupational therapy and speech therapy, you can be rehabbed to be good as new if, you do everything as you're supposed to. And there maybe, if there's not other factors in place. So this is not medical advice. This is just education, things that I have seen clinically, personally, professionally, all of that, right? So with physical therapy, that's how I typically thought it was, right? The physical therapist comes into the patient's room after they had a stroke. They rehab them at least 3 to maybe 5 times a week for like 15 to 20, or if it's really intense, like an hour for 5 times a week. And then they get better and better over time. And so flashback to me, postpartum, I'm at my 6-week checkup, and my doctor was like, okay, she was like, I want you to do a sit-up. So I did a sit-up, right? And mind you, that sit-up, I felt like mush. And y'all, if you are postpartum right now, you know what I mean. You do not want to do anything. You feel like you were run over by a semi or the biggest truck front and back. Like they did it twice to you, okay? That's how I felt. So when homegirl said, you gotta do a sit-up, and I said, why you want me to do a sit-up? Don't you know I just gave birth? Right? And she was like, I just need you to sit up because I want to see if you have diastasis recti. And I said, well, hold on, what's that? Because I don't remember learning that in nursing school. Because with nursing school, at least when I went to school, and I feel old, but I graduated nursing school in 2014. At time of recording, it is April 14th, 2026. And I'm actually doing a 100-day YouTube challenge, and we're either on day 67 or 68. We're almost at 70. Are we at 70 today? This is the running joke. I never know what day we are on, but I do know that I got to clock into YouTube every day for the next less than 30 days so that I am going to be monetized. I digress. So I Like diastasis recti, I don't know what that is because in nursing school, you just learn about the gestational period. So you learn about those 9 months and then you learn about the fundus. Fundus, right? Let me look that up really quick because I don't want to tell y'all the wrong thing. But hold on. Let me just, because I remember this. Let's see. Yep. The fundus of the uterus. That was multiple test questions. That's all I remember when it came to the OBGYN aspect of things I needed to know as a nurse. I did not have any desire to work on the OBGYN floor when I just got out of nursing school. I really loved the heart. So I actually did work on a cardiac floor. I loved the patients that came in and things like that. However, I did not like the pace. But anyways, back to this. So when homegirl is like, yeah, I just want to check to see if you have diastasis recti. And so I didn't know what that is. And she educated me after I did my neonate sit up. She was like, okay, you have like about a finger's breadth. So what is diastasis recti, right? So diastasis recti is so postpartum, your abdominal muscles, they split apart, or not postpartum. When you are pregnant, your abdominal muscles split apart so that baby has room to move, to grow, to become a healthy baby in your body, right? Postpartum, those abdominal muscles that were like this, they're supposed to come all the way back together. That's where the term snapback comes. They're supposed to snap back, the muscles. And I know snapback can have a negative connotation because women feel like they have to diet and restrict themselves from all of the things they used to like because their body is not the same. And I am here to tell you, your body is not the same postpartum. You have a completely new body after having a child. However, snapback, when I talk about it, is not in the sense of diet culture and restricting yourself and starving yourself and all of this. When I talk about snapback, I'm talking about diet. I'm talking about the abdominal muscles, okay? And everybody that has given birth to a child has abdominal muscles. We all have muscle no matter your body type, right? So it's really important that you can bring those muscles back as much as you can. And how do you do that? You do that through physical therapy, right? As well as there's some certain deep core exercises that you can do. And I'll make sure to leave that information down below for you to help you rehab, to tell the muscles, hey, we're done having the baby. Y'all need to come back together, right? So she educates me on what diastasis recti is. She's like, okay, you only have about a finger's breadth, and this is where I will forever thank my midwife because I'm paraphrasing, but she was like, because yes, my body frame is slimmer. I have muscle, all that. She could have written me off and been like, oh, you'll be fine because you're skinny. Yeah, right? And no, she took me very seriously, and I'm so appreciative of my midwife. And she was like, you have a finger's breadth. So when I say that, it was like, there was like, say, I forget how they measure. I think they measure this way, if you will. So like some women might have like 4, maybe your whole hand, like it never comes back. And you'll see women have like a pooch, right? Because their abdominal muscles did not come back together. So no matter what exercises, whatever, they did everything. They're eating well, exercising, all those things, sleeping, right? Taking their supplements, and they have diastasis recti that it's no rehab is good. So those women will get what's called a mommy makeover, right? Because it's just flab and it needs to be fixed, right? So I was so glad that she was like, you know what, like go get your physical therapy because this is easily can be easily rehabilitated through physical therapy. So I did like 6 weeks of physical therapy postpartum after my son. I'm pretty sure it was after him. I say that because when my son was 9 months, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So my kids are 18. I really should do the math. That's also the joke. I never have really sat, but they're about 18 months. They're less than 2 years apart. So they are what's called Irish twins. And they actually looked like twins when they were baby. People were like, they twins? And I said, no. I was like, I did this twice, okay? And so I lost my train of thought with that, but Oh, so yeah, it was after my son, and that was a lot. I was doing a lot as I reflect. He was in daycare. I had to put him in daycare immediately 6 weeks because at that time when I found out I was pregnant, I actually got a new job, and that was a little scary because I was worried, which no job can do this, but I'm just letting you know. I was scared that I was gonna not even get hired, so I didn't disclose when I interviewed that I was pregnant. And it didn't, it maybe because then I started showing that once I had the job, I was like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant, but I was just worried. I was like, this is going to be like the perfect job. It was a office job, case management as a nurse. I was like, this is perfect as I am becoming a new mom. Like, it's just not as stressful on my body, my mental health, all of that as working in the hospital. So I was like, I can't lose this. I can't lose this. So with that being said, I didn't have like enough saved or insurance like to be with him for a year. And that's something I still like weighs on me a little bit. And that's why I make these videos just to help me process. So at 6 weeks, I had to put him in daycare. And when I put him in daycare, I made sure to breastfeed him like almost like that. Those first few months I would clock out of the people's job, and the daycare was like less than a mile away, but there was a light like every few feet. I'm not even kidding you. So I would go on my lunch break, feed him, go back to work. So I did that for maybe a few months. And then I think I did the physical therapy within this as well. Would also have to take time off to do my physical therapy during the work hours because that's when doctors' offices are open, right? And that's when physical therapy offices are open, which these are just the things when you are a new mom, when people are like, it's a lot, that's the a lot. I like to be specific with you as much as I, care to disclose that's the a lot. It's making sure that my son gets the breast milk he needs while also making sure that I'm taking care of my pelvic floor, right? So that was something else. So let's really get into like what did the physical therapy appointments contain? Like what did you do? So with the physical therapy appointments, I had a physical therapist that I believe, don't quote me, but I believe she had her doctorate in physical therapy. And you want to make sure though, you don't just like say, I want to see a physical therapist. One, typically, like if you have insurance, you need to make sure you have a referral. And on that referral, it says that you need to have pelvic floor rehabilitation postpartum. Okay, this is who I'm talking to you postpartum, right? Because no matter how you give birth, there's only two ways you can get a baby out of you: vaginally and C-section, right? So I had my kid C-section, and with that being said, I didn't think again, going back to that 6 week visit, the midwife was like, yeah, you need physical therapy. And I was like, but I didn't push the kids, like, and then she said pelvic floor. And I was like, but I didn't push the kid out vaginally. And she was like, yeah, that doesn't matter. You still were holding your child in your belly for 42 weeks to be exact. They both stayed over. And so she was like, that weighs, because you have to think, right? You have to think. I'm a very visual person. You have to think, right? This is the belly holding and then your pelvic floor is below your belly, right? And it's holding and your pelvic floor is a muscle, right? So you just think it's a muscle and it's holding, and it does adapt like any muscle does because it's being used to hold all of your weight and the baby's weight. And then after that, though, it weakens because it's no longer in use. And with any muscle, if you do not use that muscle, you lose that muscle. And what that looks like when it comes to a weak pelvic floor are the following three things. Incontinence. So you may hear a lot of women, and this is my soapbox, which I roll my eyes at this because this should not be our norm as women. That's why I'm a huge advocate for physical therapy. A lot of women, or even your mom, your grandmother, be like, yeah, every time I sneeze, I pee myself, or every time I cough, I pee myself. And that is because they have a weak pelvic floor. I am here to tell you that is not normal, and you can rehab through physical therapy, right? And so with the second thing, and we're going to get into how the appointments would go. The second thing is umbilical hernia. So people that have an outie belly button, that was me. And I actually had surgery to fix my outie to an innie for vanity. That was my mom's choice when I was 8. And But postpartum, if you have an umbilical hernia, that can be really dangerous because remember what I said, your abdominal muscles, I didn't say all this part, but your abdominal muscles, they protect vital organs behind the abdominal muscle wall, your stomach, your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, like that's all back there. So if you have an umbilical hernia, you're now putting yourself more at risk. So that outie for organs to protrude through. And then it's just right here. I'm not going to get graphic, but you would see an outie and then you see intestines, and that's very dangerous. So that's why I say the snapback thing to kind of get people's attention, because unfortunately we still kind of live in a society that is very and it's also just how we live in a society that's very I want to be skinny, and it's not about being skinny, it's about your safety, right? So the umbilical hernia can be a very big concern if you don't treat your diastasis recti. The third thing that if you do not treat your diastasis recti through way of physical therapy is that you are putting yourself at risk for lower back pain. Again, going back to you being pregnant, you are constantly like this, right? You're like this, okay? And you're like that as you're pregnant because you're trying to distribute your weight as best as possible, and you have lower back pain and all of that. That's fine during. But I will say if the pain becomes excruciating where you can't even walk pre-pregnant, while you're pregnant and postpartum, call your OBGYN stat, okay? And if you need to just 911 because you can't even walk, please do that. Like lower back pain, there's a multitude of reasons you could be having that lower back pain. But after the baby's gone postpartum, if you are still having lower back pain, you need to strengthen after you do your 6-week appointment. Let me say that again. Please go to your 6-week appointment, y'all. The amount of people patients that I've had I would call when working my corporate job, I didn't realize, or I forgot. That's something you don't forget because the time is of the essence. And what will happen too is if you're your baby is now 1, 2, and you're is it too late? It's not that it's too late. It's going to take more time, right, to rehab. So that's why it's the sooner, the better, but after the 6 weeks. And also, we do not put anything into our vaginal canal during the 6 weeks. You hear me? So you have baby and those first 6 weeks, you're not putting nothing in there. You're not putting nothing, no penis, no dildo, nothing in there. Those 6 weeks, you have to heal up. Okay, so everything, when I'm talking physical therapy, that all happened after, I have to do a time check. That happened after my 6-week appointment, okay? And the third, so we talked about the low back pain, right? So what happened at the physical therapy appointments, right? What happened is she does an assessment. I lay on a table. Again, I had to do another crunch. I was y'all, bane of my existence, these crunches, right? And I'm pretty sure you can relate. And so I do a little crunch and she's okay, so she's confirming the assessment from the midwife. Okay, you have a finger's breadth of separation. You can totally rehab this, right? I will also say this, just a quick thing. If you are considering, maybe you're watching this video because you're considering becoming pregnant, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for doing your research and your due diligence. Start working on your core from now, because when you work on your core before you have a baby, you are more likely to snap back. But if you don't do any type of core workout or anything for your core prenatally, it's going to be harder post. So just putting that there. So we do the assessment, and then she has me do just simple, it seems simple, but it's a lot of deep core workouts. And then I had homework that she gave me small adult toys, and I had to put those up the vaginal canal. Again, this was after the 6-week appointment, not before. And I remember she gave me these adult toys and I was huh? And she's well, because that was something else I forgot to tell you guys. So even though I had both of my kids C-section, I had vaginal pain. So every time I would pee or even wipe, I had pain. I didn't I didn't give birth vaginally, so I had no cut or bleed, none of that. So I was like, why am I in pain? And it goes back to what I said with my midwife. She's like, you're holding this baby for so long that now your body's like, what's going on? And then you have the vaginal pain. So in order to rehab that vaginal pain and reintroduce anything up there, she gave me different size adult toys. So it was like this big and then this big and then, okay, all right. So my husband would help me with that. And so we did those things before I even, had sex again. And I'm so thankful for that. And I know that's not a lot of women's story, unfortunately, is like, oh, it's just like some men can be, because it's like, you got to give us time to bounce back, right? And they're like, oh, 6 weeks, and then just shove that in there, and it's like, whoa. So like, no, I'm a big advocate. Like, I'm really talking to my C-section girlies, because I feel like we kind of get the short end of the stick, because it's like you're like, well, I didn't push it out, I didn't push the baby out, I didn't push the baby out, but you still need that rehab, you still need that physical therapy. So that is the one thing, even though this was a 20-minute video, but getting physical therapy truly saved my life. Like, if I did not get physical therapy, I would have been at risk. This is the last thing I will say, for things such as vaginal prolapse. What is vaginal prolapse? It is when the innards, your vagina, comes out through the hole you pee in, okay? Because your pelvic floor is that weak. Okay, so no matter if you're C-section, no, if you have C-section, you are at risk for these kind of things. Don't think. If anything, we need more rehab because we had surgery. Vaginal is the natural way to give birth, right? So your body, if you push it out vaginally, it will know, bloop, bloop, like, but you still need the physical therapy. But C-section girlies even more. So make sure you like this video, comment, subscribe, and all the resources will be down below for you. And make sure you come back. Same time, same place. All right, bye for now.